Hope you're feeling refreshed and having a little something in the tummy there. Just a reminder just to switch your mobile phones off or put them on silent again, please. Okay, still a few coming in. Just a reminder, just switch your phones on silent. Thank you very much. We'll pass it over to Dr. Ramirez, and we may have a few questions at the end of tonight's session. Take a few questions, okay? Thank you.
Testing. There it is. Okay, well, let's come to the second part. This time we're going to deal with the melatonin. So melatonin is something that is extremely important in the body. In fact, if you go to the old books of physiology studies, the function of the body and the organs and so forth. There's a gland there called the pineal gland. And some of the old physiology books are going to tell you this is a remnant of evolution and it's no good. We don't know why we have it there. Well, that's not necessarily true because we have it there because it has very important functions. Among the important hormones that are secreted in that pineal gland include the epithalamine. This one, we think that it helps with learning. That's why kids learn so fast. Have you noticed that? As you age, a little more challenging to learn. Then you have serotonin. This is one that has a big impact on your ability to have good mental health, on sleep, and your ability to deal with pain. We'll come back to the sleep part later on. Then you have the arginine basotosin, and this one is what makes you fall to sleep very deeply. And children tend to have this one in higher amounts. Have you seen children that are sleeping? Isn't it hard to wake them up, because they have this arginine basotosin much higher. And melatonin. Melatonin is called the hormone that fixes and makes you young at night. So that's why we need to be very careful with our melatonin, because if you're not getting enough melatonin, you are literally going to age faster. Not only are you going to age faster, you're going to start to increase the risk of disease if you don't have enough melatonin. So the melatonin levels happen to start to decrease as you age. And we know that sleep is better than midnight. Sleep is worth far more before than after midnight. 2 hours of good sleep before 12 o'clock is worth more than 4 hours after 12 o'clock. And this is something that I knew when I was in medical school. So, sometimes we have to do this all-night duties and so forth. So I would, as you're serving at night, in the medical field, they give you some opportunity to sleep, So I would trade mine. I would say, okay, let me sleep before midnight, because I knew this one, And, you guys, I'll come back, later on as you're resting later on. And I was able to perform much better, secondary to the fact that sleep is better before midnight. So, in order to make melatonin, these are the steps. So first of all, we need to eat enough tryptophan. And when we deal with the mental health later on, I'll tell you a little further sources. I will tell you a few right now. For example, when people think of tryptophan, they think milk has tryptophan. Yes, there's a little bit of tryptophan in milk, but there are other foods higher in tryptophan, such as black-eyed peas. You guys know what is this one, the black-eyed pea? Is this bean that is brown in color and has a big dot. That is the black-eyed pea. How do you guys call it around here? Maybe because different cultures and so forth, call it differently from where you're coming from. Then black walnuts. These are walnuts, but the skin is very black. By the way, black walnuts actually work as cholesterol-lowering medication on people with high cholesterol. They are excellent to lower cholesterol. And almonds, sesame seeds, gluten flour, pumpkin, roasted seeds, and a favorite food of mine, tofu, which happens to be a fantastic food. Talk to any Asian. They are experts on how to cook this, And the advantage of tofu is that it doesn't taste like anything. So that means it's going to grab the flavor of whatever you give it. So you can have it salty, you can have it sweet, you can have it spicy, and so forth. So depending on how you prepare it is the food, the taste that we'll have. Then the tryptophan, that one needs to be converted into serotonin. And this is the important thing. See, melatonin, we start the process in the day, not in the night. So the amount of serotonin we have in the day is what's going to become the melatonin at night. So if I want to have higher amounts of melatonin, I need to have higher amounts of serotonin. So the best thing I can do is to expose myself to bright light early in the day. That's going to be the key. Okay? So as the sun is coming up, that's when you need to be exposing yourself to bright light to generate the most serotonin. Vigor declines as years advance, leaving less vitality with which to resist unhelpful influences. Hence, the greater necessity for the aged to have plenty of sunlight and fresh, pure air. So what do the people that are aged need? Need to go out on the sun. That's what I was doing this morning. I had a nice run this morning there in the nice sunshine of Australia. What else do I need? I need to convert at night. When the sun sets, when darkness comes, the body starts converting the serotonin into melatonin. So this step requires enough calcium and enough vitamin B6 for this transformation to take place. Where do we get our calcium? Well, there's plenty of calcium around. Oatmeal, lentils, quinoa, rutabagas, dandelion greens, the wild ones that grow there, you can cook those. Mustard greens, baked beans, sesame seeds, blackstrap molasses, kale, and then turnip greens, filibert, green soybeans, figs, and then I put this just for comparison's sake. Notice milk compared to figs. People think that calcium only comes from dairy. That's not necessarily true. There are plenty options. Amaranth, non-fat skim milk, collard greens, carrot flour, and lamb's quarters. Now, let me show you this interesting tweet that I put just a couple of days ago about dairy. So, let me see. No, it's going to be under this name. 1 second. I wanted to show you this one. This is a fascinating study. So here you can see who can digest dairy correctly. So let's see, this internet's taking a little bit. There it is. So if your genes come from that area there where they have the dark blue, so if you are Norwegian, if you are Dutch, if you are German, you're able to handle dairy much better, okay? And the number is not 100%, by the way. It's like 70 somewhere there. Now, as you move farther away from there, for example, Asian people, they just don't handle dairy correctly. You know, lots of diarrhea, lots of bloating, skin problems, and so forth. Same story in most places in Africa, as well as people that have indigenous blood from the Americas. And actually many of the Pacific islands is the same story. You cannot handle dairy very well, you know. Yet, you know, many people are partaking of this and so forth, and this causes all kinds of problems. If you want to get the graphic, just go to my Twitter account. You will find the tweet there. You know, that's the way you're gonna get it. See, right there. And another very good source of calcium is this weed. And I think I've seen it around here. It's called lamb's quarter. It's not a piece of lamb, but that's the name of the plant, okay? And where do we get our vitamin B6? Lima beans, lentils, walnuts, bananas, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds, artichoke hearts, and sweet bell peppers. You know, these things are loaded with vitamin B6. So as you can see, you know, there's plenty of options. And yes, you know, those sweet bell peppers actually give very good flavor. You guys call it paprika in this side of the world, or capsicum, you know, capsicum. Black-eyed peas? Oh, black-eyed beans. Oh, beans, okay. Well, it makes sense. You know, they're not peas, they're beans. And do you know that there's foods high in melatonin? So things like barley, bananas, tomato, ginger, rice, corn, and oats. So you can literally eat some of that melatonin to complement some of the internal melatonin. So this is the big important part. We can sometimes do things that block our melatonin. Things such as stress. See, that explains why when you're stressed, man, you sleep so good, isn't it? Yes or no? No, because it blocks your melatonin. Even in the Bible, it talks about this. It says that you shouldn't go to bed, you know, if there's some fighting or something, you need to solve that before you go to bed, says the Bible. Lots of wisdom there in that counsel. Also, caffeine. Caffeine ages you because it blocks your melatonin. It affects your quality of your sleep. And alcohol, many people have that bad custom of drinking some alcohol because they say it helps me sleep. Yes, it makes you sleepy, but it gives you poor quality sleep. So your sleep is not as deep as it should be. And tobacco will also block your melatonin. Now, there's also medications that block melatonin. Especially, and this is the important part, those type of medications that are slow release, okay? That instead of taking it every 6 hours and so forth, you take one and then the whole day it lasts. Those are the ones that tend to block the most the melatonin. And also, if you're going to be taking vitamin B12, don't take too much. More than 3 milligrams a day of vitamin B12 will block your melatonin. And another one that is very important, if you have high blood pressure and you take medications that end in LOL, atenolol, propanolol, metoprolol, and there's other lols, those medications called the beta blockers block 99% of your melatonin. So I don't like people taking melatonin as in pills and so forth, but if you take the beta blockers, you better take some of it because you're blocking, most of your melatonin. There's a conversation you can have with your doctor about potentially switching you to other type of blood pressure medication. Sometimes it's possible to do something like that. So what do I need to do to improve my melatonin? Well, I need to have more natural light in the day, and at night I need to block my blue light, especially from my devices. In fact, many of the modern cell phones have this function, Both Apple and Android, there's some blue light function there. As soon as the sun sets, starts blocking you down. Don't cancel that function. Make sure you have it on. It's very important for you to have that option on. Make sure you sleep in complete darkness. Just a little light there that is kind of bothersome from the street and so forth, that's enough to block your melatonin. So if that's the case, that in your house there's some light there, you need to sleep with some of those eye masks, okay? Because it's not good to be exposing yourself to that light. And eat foods rich in melatonin, tryptophan, and vitamin B6. Avoid calcium deficiency. And did you know that your intestines and your retina secrete melatonin at night? So if there is food circulating in your digestive tract, that's going to block some of the melatonin that your intestine was going to secrete. That's why you need to have 3-4 hours before you go to bed and your last meal. There's some herbs that can help us with sleep. Among them is chamomile and also hops. This is also an excellent one for sleep. Lavender, lemon balm, and valerian. So what can we do to have a better sleep? So there's some recommendations that we give as doctors. We tell you, make sure that you're eating your vegetables. Make sure that you are going outside and play. Make sure you're sleeping enough. Well, this sleep is actually very important. And sleep is when we are repairing our body. And that's why they call that the top 10 things that the sleep does. Restores, resets, repairs, anti-inflammatory, improves the mood, heart health, brain health, memory, joy, and energy. And you know that very well. Isn't it great when you have a good night's sleep? Doesn't it feel so good, the next day and so forth? Because our body has been completely regenerated. So I need enough quantity and I need enough quality. Sometimes people want to compromise in one or the other one. They say, okay, I sleep good, so I'll just sleep 5 hours. That doesn't cut it. You need at least 7 hours of sleep. So this the reality is that adults still need there's 7 to 9 hours. Some people say, no, as I age, I need less sleep and so forth. That's not necessarily true. You need at least that 7 hours. And this sleep problem started 100 years ago with the blessing of electricity. That meant what? That we were able to stay late. Now, we could read and so forth. Then the television came, then the internet came, and so forth. And we started pushing our sleeping time over and over. And the thing is that our ancestors, most of them used to work in farming. So when they came home, the last thing they wanted was to stay up late. They were so tired from working in the fields, they just wanted to go and rest. So our goal needs to be 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And naps can be a good option, but just make sure that they are not long, and make sure they're not taken after eating. That's a mistake that some people do. They eat and then they go nap. That's not good. You're going to ruin your stomach, okay? So make sure your naps are before and not too long. If you're sleeping too long in the day, you're going to disturb your sleep cycle, and then you're going to start having problems sleeping well at night. So then we have the different stages of sleep, and throughout the night, you start going deep, and then back, and deep, and down, and so forth. And this is what explains who remembers their dreams and who doesn't. See, people that wake up from that REM type of sleep cycle, those are the people that tend to remember their dreams. But there's other people that wake up from other parts of the cycle. These are the people that wake up and say, no, I don't remember why I was sleeping, what I was dreaming, Maybe I don't dream. No, you do dream, but it is on another part of your sleep. So then, throughout the night, first the physical repair is prioritized, and then the mental health and clearing of toxins is prioritized. And that's the reason why, if you don't sleep enough, don't you feel like your neck is hurting and so forth? Secondary to the fact that physical reparation couldn't take place correctly. And among the things that are causing problems with our sleep include, number one, sleep apnea and snoring. This stuff is not good for you. Sleep apnea is very inflammatory. Now, how do you know if you have sleep apnea? Ask your partner. I know. You're like breathing at night and then suddenly, for a few seconds and, and this type of thing, Number one cause of that, having too much body weight. See, as you gain weight here, you also gain it in your throat, so that excess weight in your throat collapses your airways, okay? And this stuff is very dangerous for your mental health. You're a very high risk for a dementia and so forth later on. That's why we had to solve that. One option is those CPAP machines, to sleep with this mask. That is not the most comfortable thing. Or the second option is to lose weight. As you lose weight here, you're also going to lose weight here, and then the probability of that collapse decreases. Also, the teeth grinding, okay? That can really damage your molars, in your mouth. So if you're a person like that, especially when you're under a lot of stress, people do that more. You may want to get one of those custom-made, things to protect your teeth at night. Also, people that are under pain, you cannot sleep well, if there is pain. Something interesting happens when people change their lifestyle. Actually, their pain reporting actually decreases. And as we were mentioning, certain medications, caffeine, alcohol can block that. Also, the room environment. Did you know that you sleep better if your room is tidy? Even though your eyes may be closed, the fact that you have a disaster there going on in your room, that actually affects your quality of sleep. And then your medical conditions also will be affected. So then the problem is that if you have sleep problems, as we were mentioning yesterday, you're going to create inflammation. Remember those that came yesterday, how it is the source of most diseases and health problems? So that's why it worries us when somebody is not sleeping well on a regular basis. And if you don't sleep enough, there was a study just came out last week, and go and find it on my Twitter, how sleeping less than 7 hours a night increases your risk of diabetes and metabolic syndrome regardless of your diet, because of the inflammation that causes. Then you can end up with the negative outcomes, but things started all the way there from the very beginning. So then another thing that we know improves your sleep is if your room is nice and cool, okay? So lower your temperature. And that's the reason why when it's very hot, you're turning and having a hard time sleeping, because lowering the temperature actually improves your sleep. So what's the problem if you don't sleep enough? Well, the sleepiness. The body wants to sleep. So throughout the day, you're going to feel more tired than usual and so forth. And the thing is that these things are not normal. You're reading and then you fall asleep. You are having a meeting and then you're drifting off. You're in the day and then you're sleeping the whole way, even though it's in the day. That's not normal. You're watching TV early in the evening and you sleep. You are a passenger in the car and you're taking a nap. And you have a red light and you take a mini nap and so forth. All these things are not normal. They tell us that there is what is called there a sleep debt, okay? You have not slept enough. That's why you're having this. And also, if you hear people that say, oh, I don't need sleep, oh, I'm fine with 4 or 5 hours a night. Yeah, right, that is not true. Yes, I sleep. I get 10 or more hours a night every night. Also, the excess sleep is not good. That also tells us other health problems. So your range should be between 7 to 9 hours. Oh, I catch on my sleep over the weekends. No, you won't, Sure, you did sleep a little bit more and so forth, but you cannot keep on life going like that. I'm a great sleeper. I can sleep anytime, anywhere. Well, the reason why you can sleep anywhere is because you're so sleep deprived, you just lay down somewhere and sleep there, So that's not actually a good sign. And the problem is that, you start having problems, with the possibility of having a traffic accident. Depression is more likely in somebody that doesn't sleep enough. Hypertension, diabetes, as I mentioned to you, obesity, cancer, and so forth. So simple sleepiness doesn't kill you unless you're behind the wheel of a car. So people that are sleeping 6 hours or less a night is equivalent as being mildly drunk. Your decision making is impaired if you are not sleeping enough. And this is something very well studied in the scientific literature. So these people, they put them on sleep restriction. They were not sleeping enough. And the more nights that they had on sleep restriction, very clearly, more mistakes they would do on simple tasks and so forth. Also, when you are not sleeping, the body starts sending the wrong signals, so you are more likely to be partaking of sugar and fat those days that you're not sleeping enough. So the body tries to compensate by sending the wrong type of signals, and you have those unnatural cravings secondary to that. Also, we know that people with fibromyalgia, arthritis, and any type of pain, when they don't sleep, it hurts more. That's one of the reasons why as people come to the lifestyle center and we help them sleep much better, pain start decreasing in them. So when you are not sleeping enough, you're going to start having problems with your memory. You're going to be overconfident, and you're going to end up making more mistakes. Your attention span starts decreasing, so you're not able to focus correctly. You're not able to judge correctly, and you're more likely to make many more mistakes. So there's something that is called restless leg syndrome. They renamed that. Now it's called the Willis-Ekman disease. And basically is those people that go to bed and they just cannot keep still. You know, they feel that their legs want to move and so forth. So you ask these patients, you know, do you do some teeth grinding? Do you do some clenching and so forth? So there's a genetic factor to this, but also people that use caffeine more likely to end up with this problem. And also, if you're not eating enough iron, vitamin B, if you have diabetes, kidney disease, thyroid disease, pregnancy, caffeine, as I was telling you, hypoglycemia, rheumatic illness, and Parkinson's disease. And this can vary from night to night. Not every night could be the same and so forth. So what we need to do, we need to find the cause. If the problem is lack of iron, well, we give him iron. If the problem is lack of vitamin B, well, we give him foods high in that vitamin B. If there's problems in the hormones, we have to deal, you know, with the hormones and correct them and so forth. And we know that if you don't treat that, your risk for heart disease actually increases. And as I was telling you, sleep apnea, the airways collapse in the throat, and that's the number one cause. There's other causes, but that's the number one cause, the collapse of your airways. And I'm telling you, having this problem increases all kinds of issues. For example, you increase by 2 to 4 times your risk of having a heart attack. It's just like a smoker. You know, that's how much you increase in risk. And also, your heart is very sensitive to oxygen, so you increase your risk of arrhythmias, sudden cardiac death, heart failure, dementia, depression, and elevated blood sugar, as well as increased risk for stroke and death. So as you can see, there's many things we can do to improve our sleep. And what are we going to do to have a good night sleep? We're going to remember that we need quantity and quality. Every night you should go to bed at the same time, including the weekend. This is when the mistakes happen. People start going to bed late and so forth. If you're having problems with insomnia and your sleep quality is not good long term and so forth, you may need to consult a specialist, so we can diagnose exactly what's the problem and address the problem. And we need to have a daytime lifestyle. As I tell patients, the night is to sleep, the day is to be awake. Don't mix each other. So we need to start working in our sleep. Sleep is one of those characteristics of people that live the longest. They usually have very good night sleep. So let's improve the sleep, and you will see how your overall lifestyle improves. So thank you very much for coming tonight. And Pastor, time is yours.
Thank you, Doctor. Just thought might take a few moments to ask if anyone has any questions for Dr. Ramirez this evening. Thank you.
1 second.
Light sleeper can be genetic. I think
Yeah,
so.
good question. Yeah, does light sleeper tend to be genetic? And the answer is yes. In fact, there's some genetic testing like the 23andMe. I don't know if you've seen that one. They check for your families and so forth, and there's also a health component to that. And that one gives you those results, And they're actually quite accurate because, yes, there's a genetic factor there between the light sleeper and the people that sleep deeply. If it's in your case, you're somebody that is more of a light sleeper, but what you may want to do is to increase your physical exercise. Many times the mind may be tired, but not the body. So we need to make sure that our bodies are tired.
Any other questions? Okay, I've got two here. Just take Edmond first. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you going to deal with issues with addictions? For example, certain people have got problems stopping to take things like chocolates, like dairy, things like that. What would you recommend for people who are willing to stop that, but they find it very difficult?
That's right. We dealt with that a little bit on Saturday, and we also going to continue a little bit more with that when we talk about mental health and depression. So yes, we'll be dealing a little bit with that. Just briefly, you want accountability, and you want to hang around people that want to do the healthy behaviors. You do what your friends do. So if you're hanging around, with the drinkers and so forth, you're going to end up drinking, You want to change your diet to the plant-based and so forth. Well, hang around the people that want to do this, They will have that influence on you. So, yes, and when we deal with the depression and so forth, we'll be coming with a little more detail about the steps and so forth. In the back.
Okay, just one here quickly.
Dr. Ramirez, I just want to get some clarification because there's been so many confusing views on eggs, and
Yes.
I am one of those ones who love eggs.
That's
so
right.
At one point, I stopped eating eggs, and then I heard some research that says, "Oh, that's been debunked." So then I started eating eggs. So now I'm going to stop eating eggs now. So, what would be your comment about that?
Well, it's a principle that I was talking about yesterday. People like to hear good news about their bad habits. So the reality is that, yes, eggs are not the best food. I know I've gone to most countries in Asia. I've gone to Japan, to Malaysia, to Indonesia, to China, to Singapore, to Hong Kong, and many, many more. And something you notice, people in Asia like to eat a lot of eggs, So the problem is the cholesterol, As you saw, is not the best thing for that. There was an interesting study that was published criticizing cholesterol, eggs, and the egg industry was very worried about that study. So they started sending emails to different experts saying, hey, I want you to write, something to, go against this article to try to, discredit it. But none of the people that they wrote, they said, no, this is a well-done study. You know what am I going to criticize? You know what they end up doing? They end up hacking the email account of some professor in Canada, and he's the one that supposedly criticized the study and so forth. Then he comes back from vacation, and he has this countless amount of emails there of people trying to respond to him. And he was like, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about. I was on vacation, somebody hacked my account and wrote that refutal, So you can see how even, going to dirty things like this, to try to justify it. So yes, in the internet is full of this type of people that are trying to promote, eat 7 eggs a day, it's good for you. That stuff is not good for you. It's going to harm your arteries and so forth. Today, you can even go to the health food stores here in Australia. They even sell these eggs that come even in a shell and everything. They're made out of plants. They don't have no cholesterol. And you can use them exactly as you are used to have the same taste of the egg and so forth, without necessarily having the negative effects of the cholesterol and so forth. So yes, that's the reality with the eggs.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Doctor, for
Yes.
this lot of information that you're giving us. You touched about the arteriosclerosis
Yes.
in the vein. I have my nephew. He's 42 years old.
Yes.
Very muscle man. He goes to the gym. But
Yes.
he had a stroke.
Yes.
Heart stroke.
That's right.
Heart attack.
Heart attack.
So they put a stent in him.
That's right.
And you mentioned that he's asymptomatic.
That's right.
Never felt. He just felt pain. Then all of a sudden it's in emergency. How would you determine? How could you tell? What procedure? What testing should you do to find if you have this kind of problem?
Yeah. Good question. So, he was not in the higher risk category. When we think 40 years old, we don't think that all of them are going to have this type of problems. So sometimes a simple EKG will start giving us the indication. Just a simple EKG is going to have certain markers there. We call that ST elevation, and ST depression, depending if the heart attack already happened, or because sometimes some people have it and they don't even know it, then you're going to have, the elevation. If it's becoming a problem, then you're going to have an ST depression. I actually have a study. We were showing that people with ST depression, it means they have the atherosclerosis, that come to the program that we have in California of 18 days, by the end of the 18 days, when we repeated the study, half of the people that already had the depression started improving. That's how fast sometimes the healing of the arteries start to take place. And in parentheses, one of the reasons why many people that lift weights have problems with strokes and heart attacks happen to be the fact that they many times eat too many eggs, or exactly what we were talking about. You go and talk to them, and say, oh yes, I need to eat my 5 eggs and so forth to get my protein so my muscles can build up and so forth. And you get yourself in trouble, exactly what we were talking about. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. It's just a follow-up question on what you said on Saturday about vitamin B12. you said when you're on a plant-based diet,
That's right.
you don't need to worry about protein, but rather take vitamin B12 supplements. So are these supplements in the form of a tablet, or am I consuming foods that are, yeah?
Good question. That's a very good question. Yes, I've been mentioning that, that you need to be taking a vitamin B12 supplement if you're going to go on a full plant-based diet. And today, many foods actually already have, some vitamin B12 in them. So you're doing it like an insurance, You actually have between 7 to 10 years of reserves of vitamin B12. So believe me, you're not going to go deficient tomorrow. It's a long time to go deficient. So just to play it safe, would be a good idea to take one of those vitamin B12 tablets 2-3 times a week. Myself, I've been following that diet for the past 30 years. I just in December checked my vitamin B12 completely normal. So yes, it's possible to have your vitamin B12 completely normal. So just make sure, you take that on a regular basis just to ensure, Some people say, well, I'm going to be, eating this type of foods, and I heard they have vitamin B12 and so forth. Make sure you're reading well the labels and make sure that it's a good source, if that's the way you want to go. And you can always ask your GP to check your vitamin B12, as a baseline to see where you're at. In fact, in the medical practice, we see many people that are on an animal-based type of diet and have vitamin B12 deficiencies. What happens is that as you age, the amount of acid in your stomach decreases, so your ability to absorb vitamin B12 decreases as you age. So as you age, you're going to need a little bit more vitamin B12 to be taken. So yeah, just watch out for that. Okay.
I believe you can have B12 injections as well from your GP.
B12 injections,
Is that
you
an option?
need that if they're really, really low. Most of the time, the supplement will do it. But if the laboratory comes back that is very, very low, we may consider the injection. But you don't necessarily need that. Some people like the injections, they feel like, they get more out of it and so forth. I don't know, I'm not in the masochist type of philosophy.
Any other questions?
I noticed you mentioned before, Doctor, about margarine and butter.
Yes.
What about those ones that they sell them here? I guess they probably do in America as well. We have one here called like Proactive.
That's right.
They're supposed to lower your cholesterol. Do they work? Are they okay to take? Or just put
Yeah,
on your
that's
bread,
a
or?
very good question. So what you're going to do, you're going to read the labels. In the old days, we used to have these margarines, and the majority of them had high levels of trans fats. But nowadays, we kind of figure out how to make those margarines without those trans fats. So what you want to do, you want to read the labels that it says they're trans fat free. Okay, that's the one that you can use. So here in Australia, you cannot say it's trans fat free and have trans fats. These people will get in trouble, with the regulatory agencies. So read your labels, and yes, today in the market there are some margarines that are trans fat free.
Dr. Eddie, I'm care for a young man, it's my son. In this year, he sleep sometime weeks, and normal he sleep around 1 day or 2 days. So how can I care for him?
He's not sleeping enough, or?
Lots of, sometime week.
That's right.
Week.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, this is something that we see in our depression program. Some of the people that come to our depression program, they have the same problem, with their sleep that is too long and so forth. And that is telling us probably there could be depression there, So when somebody is under depression, you have either or. Sometimes they're not able to sleep. You know, they go to sleep and they just either sleep too long, too short, or they wake up at night in the middle of the night and they cannot go back to sleep and so forth. That's one extreme on the depression. But the other side of the coin is those people that have hypersomnia. They're sleeping too much. There's patients that come to us that are sleeping 14, 16 hours in a day and so forth. And the reason why this is happening is because their body is trying to kind of recover from the depression and so forth. So what we need to do, we need to identify the causes potentially of the mental health problem and then reverse them. So this week we're going to deal with the mental health. We'll go with more detail there, but that's going to be the key. Identifying the potential triggers that they may have and reversing them. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Autism.
That's right. Yes, sometimes depression comes together with other problems. You know? So there's other conditions that can increase the risk of depression. So yes, some autistic people can have, you know, problems with their risk of depression and so forth, and still is the same type of approach. You know, you want to start to identify potential triggers and ask the right questions. You know, how is the sleep? How is the regularity? How is the diet? How are the addictive substances? How is the daily routine and so forth? And they will benefit also, you know, from that type of lifestyle approach, you know, to identify and reverse this condition. So when we deal with the mental health, we'll be dealing with more detail there about each one of these factors. So yes, very good question.
Thank you, Doctor. Maybe one last question, or is anyone? All right, one more. Thank you. And then we'll finish on that for this evening.
Hi, Doctor. Just in regards to the quality and quantity of sleep, what do you recommend for those who do shift work?
That's right.
And not able to have the night sleeps and that? So what would you recommend?
Very good question. Change your job. No,
if they are not able.
No, but yes, you know, that's the big challenge, you know, that constant shifting and shifting and shifting. Research is very clear, increases risk for, you know, all kinds of conditions and so forth. What those people need to do, they need to really prioritize their rest, especially the night workers. Many times they're working the whole night, and then they come home and they're like, oh, you know, I cannot go to sleep because I need to go to the bank and I need to go to this office and so forth. Forget it, you know, forget it. Just as in the normal person needs to sleep their 7, 8, 9 hours, the night worker needs to go and sleep their 7, 9 hours, you know. So they need to block completely their windows so that it's nice and dark, their room. And they need to tell the other people in the household, you know, I need to sleep and so forth, don't disturb me. Another mistake that the night worker does, they finish their shift and then they eat this big plate of food and then they go to bed. I mean, is that what you do every night before you go to bed? No. So also the timing of your meals, you need to make sure that 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, that's your last meal, so that when you get out of your work, immediately you go and sleep, you know, and try to recover, you know, as much as you can. So yes, you need to put a little bit there of order in the disorder to compensate for that.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. I thought I'd share with you a Bible verse just to finish up. Psalm 127, verse 2. It is vain for you to rise up early and then to sit up late to eat the bread of sorrows, for so he giveth his beloved sleep. Amen. So God gives his beloved sleep, but rising up early and then staying up late, it's referred to as eating the bread of sorrow. It's not going to do us any good. Well, folks, did we enjoy our presentations tonight? Yes, amen. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's presentations. Dr. Ramirez, you remember them off the top of your head?
I have it here.
I've got it here. So tomorrow night, keys to stopping dementia, as was mentioned. And then where do you get your protein? On Wednesday, depression, the real solution, and ACE and your health. All right, so just to let you know what's coming up. So remember, invite your friends, invite your family, invite your enemies, so you can bless them also. But most of all, just make sure that you're here to continue to receive this knowledge. Can I invite you just to bow your heads with me for a word of prayer as we close? Our loving Father, thank you, Lord, for again teaching us, Father. Lord, knowledge, good knowledge, Lord, applied becomes wisdom. And we thank you for making us wise and showing us the way that you desire us to go. Lord, watch over us as we now make our way home. And please bless us, and not only us, but our families, as we become shining examples to them of what it means to live life abundantly. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.